When we talk about literary elements, we talk about appeals work best with different things. What appeal would work best in a problem solution organizational pattern?
Logos.
Why?
Because logos is reason.
It's not that logos is a reason, it's a particular type of reason.
It gives you statistics and facts.
You could use logos, you could use those statistics, those facts to help show that solution or to show how bad a problem is. Okay, so I would agree with that. What'd you say?
Ethos.
Why?
Because you have to give like an emotional side and then a different side.
Ethos and emotion aren't the same.
It's pathos.
Pathos is emotion.
Pathos.
Pathos could show up if you're trying to describe the problem and try to make us feel bad about it. Okay, but it's not going to be as strong as, say, maybe logos or ethos. How would ethos come into problem solution?
Whenever you put like your problem, like that little commercial thing with all the famous people on it, your problem is that animals are being abused or something like that. And
well,
your solution is you can donate money and you can use Sarah McLachlan.
You're hinting at it. You're hinting at it. If you're talking about a problem, you could use a celebrity or an expert to help talk about the solution. Somebody who knows what they're talking about. And that's how you could use ethos there. Does that make sense? Yes, no?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to split our time between two different masters today. First part we're going to do is continue working with organizational patterns. Your test tomorrow, when it comes to organizational patterns, all you have to do is identify. Okay, there'll be a little bit of analysis in there, but it'll be questions like, if you switch the pattern, how would it be affected? All right, so most of it's going to be identify. We're also going to talk about constructed response. I did grade your test from last week. The dots are up to date. You will have a chance to look at them later. Please bring your attention back to here.
Back to there.
Back here. Let me just put it out on the line for you. I'm going to put all my cards on the table. There is no other way that I can teach second E. And the people who consistently miss it are consistently doing the same problem. It'd be one thing if in the second E people are attempting an analysis and missing. That's a knowledge thing. That I can work with. What I'm seeing a lot of people doing is just not attempting. So here's how today's going to work. By the end of today, you're going to walk out with a perfect model. We're going to write it together. I'm going to explain it to you. You're going to see it piece by piece, and it will be a perfect model. After today, I am not teaching second E again. I don't have time. We have other things we need to do. Okay, so after today, I'm not teaching second E, and if you're struggling with second E, you're going to have to find some outside help. Does that make sense?
Say yeah, Mr. Klein.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, say no so I can explain it a different way.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
That's maybe talent.
Only if you're trying to be a pain in my butt. So, we're going to split our time between two masters today. First thing we're going to do is a gallery walk. This says 6 stations. There are actually 5. Take a look at the paper. It says article gallery walk. Article gallery walk. There are 5 stations. First station is over here by your grades. Second station is on the board, which is letters number 2, Evie. Third station is next to the projector. Fourth station is over here on the glass. Fifth station is underneath the flag. You're going to have roughly 3 to 5 minutes per station. Then we'll come back together, talk about it, and move on to constructive response. I need you to number off by 5, please.
1, 2,
Your 4.
2, 4.
Your 2. 4. Go to your appropriate stations, guys.
You said what?
This right here. This right here. This right here.
It's the speech that says Jesse Jackson Keynote speech, Democratic National Convention. Okay. Here's what we're going to do, guys. Knowing that second E has been a major problem, we are going to go through and write basically an intro and a body. We're even going to skip the intro. Okay, we're going to talk about just the body in and of itself. And we're going to write it together. It's not the most interesting thing we've ever done, but by the time you leave today, you should have a perfect model. Okay, so hopefully that will be something that helps us get past this second E slump.
Right on this.
Yeah, go ahead and write it on the lined paper. But the first thing we need to do is we need to find the literary elements. So I want you to follow along as I read. And we are actually only going to read the first 3 paragraphs. That's it.
Is that short?
Because there's plenty of literary elements that we can find here. So follow along, annotate as I annotate. My right and my privilege stand here before you has been won in my lifetime, by the blood and the sweat of the innocent. So immediately, with this idea of won in my lifetime by blood, sweat, and innocent, I see pathos. And this is pathos because we're talking, first of all, about winning. And winning inherently makes us feel good. But it's also, how did we win? With blood, with sweat, with work, with tears. These are emotional words. Right? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lies only a few miles from us tonight. Tonight he must feel good as he looks down upon us. We sit here together, a rainbow, a coalition, the sons and daughters of slave masters and the sons and daughters of slaves, sitting together around a common table to decide the direction of our party and our country. By using Dr. Martin Luther King here, he's using ethos. And the reason it's ethos is this whole paragraph right here is saying, look how we are sitting. Blacks, whites, and everything in between coming together to find common ground, to create a direction. So by bringing Martin Luther King, in American society, we pretty much accept King as like the end-all be-all of equality. And so talking about equality and slave masters and slaves sitting together, they kind of go together. Tim, you had a question?
Had he just died, or has he been dead?
No, he had been dead after this point. Let's continue. We meet tonight at the crossroads, a point of decision. Shall we expand, be inclusive, find unity and power, or suffer division and impotence? Right here is a rhetorical question. And rhetorical questions make the reader do what? Think. Okay, it makes you ponder the point. It makes sure that you are thinking about what the author wants you to. Common ground. That's the challenge of our party tonight. Left wing, right wing. Progress will come through boundless liberalism nor static conservatism, but at the critical mass of mutual survival. It takes 2 wings to fly. Whether you're a hawk or a dove, you are just a bird living in the same environment in the same world. This sentence right here, whether you're a hawk or a dove, metaphor.
Isn't that parallel structure? What you just read, the boundless.
Boundless liberalism nor static conservatism.
Yeah.
Technically it is parallel, but hold that because I'm going to find a better one here in a second. The Bible teaches us that when lions and lambs lie down together, none will be afraid, and there will be peace in the valley. It sounds impossible. Lions eat lambs. Lambs sensibly flee from lions. Yet even lions and lambs find common ground. Why? Because neither lions nor lambs want the forest to catch on fire. Neither lions nor lambs want acid rain to fall. Neither lions nor lambs can survive nuclear war. That is a better example of parallel structure. So look where I made my brackets. If lions and lambs can find common ground, surely we can as well. As civilized people, when we divide, we cannot win. We must find common ground as the basis for survival and development and change and growth. So, we got 3 paragraphs, and we have found a bunch of literary elements here. Now we need to work on putting them in the essay itself. So, first of all, has everybody got this? Can I change the screen? Everybody good? Okay. We know that the introduction, and I'm not going to have you write the introduction, guys. Okay? We know the introduction has a thesis and a summary. Now, it says here that now that we've started on demand, you can see the importance of a summary. What is the importance of a summary? Why do we need that?
So what's the argument?
That's the thesis statement.
Because can you say why do we need the summary?
Yes, ma'am.
Introduction?
Why do we need to have that summary?
Because the reader didn't read the article, so we have to tell them what's that.
Good. You have to assume that the person grading your paper is absolutely, without a doubt, stupid. They know nothing, have read nothing, have never been to school a day in their life. What you need to remember is that you need to give them everything. Spoon feed them. Make sure you think of them as stupid. Okay? You need to give them that background information. So, knowing that obviously another literary element would go in this blank here, is this a good introduction?
Don't you have to say what type of emotional appeal?
Nope. If you had just said appeal, that would be wrong. But emotional appeal is okay. It's like saying pathos. It doesn't have a summary here. There's no summary. So look at this one. Is this better? Yeah. We get a lot more information here at the bottom. It tells us what Jesse Jackson was doing, what his purpose was. Knowing that, where do you find that summary? Where can you get that background information to put there? You could read the whole thing. You could read the whole thing and make it up. But there's no point in reinventing the wheel and wasting time. So where do you get it?
In the prompt sometimes.
At the beginning of the prompt, or at the end of the prompt, they're going to give you that information. You will have it. Steal it. Be thieves. Take it. Okay? Copy it word for word and just make it fit. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, we get through the introduction. What comes next?
The
Body paragraph. And our first one's going to be about emotional appeal, right? Because that's what we have here. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to step through each step. S, R, E, E. You guys are going to copy it down. Again, I know it's not the most thrilling thing you've ever done, but it'll be a really good example for you. So your S. Here it is. The first literary element that Mr. Jackson uses, and it should say that Mr. Jackson, uses to persuade his audience that they need to unite to help change America for the better, is an emotional appeal. I would like you to notice two things. Or notice one thing, and I'm going to tell you something else. This sentence should pretty much be exactly the same as your thesis statement. Restate your thesis statement. And the only thing that changes is you'll use a different transition word. So for this one we said first, and the next one you might say the second. And then we use only one literary element, not both. That, yeah, it should be the first literary element, that, Mr. Jackson. You can't make fun of me when I've said it 28,000 times today.
That's just a hard word.
It is a hard word, I agree. And it's hard, especially when you have to add element on it. Literary element.
Can you say it real fast?
Probably not. I'm really bad at tongue twisters. The other thing I want you guys to make sure you're aware of, and this is a pretty common mistake, and I just want to make sure that it's not happening anymore because I don't want you to lose stupid points. Part of the points you get comes from mechanics, grammar. Things like, are you indenting? Now, some of you don't indent, and it hurts my brain, and it makes my eyes bleed a little bit, okay? But some of you do indent, but you indent so little that there's no way to know if you're actually indenting.
I do.
Let me make sure I make something clear for you. The graders at the state are trained that when in doubt, they grade against you. It's not like if you're close, they're going to give it to you. If you're close but they don't know, they're not going to give you the points. How much space should you indent?
Like, they say put your finger like that.
Put your thumb on the paper. It should be the width of your thumb. That's how much space you should be indenting. Okay? Now, do I expect you to put your thumb on that paper every time you have a new paragraph? No. Okay? But just get used to the fact that, it's a good solid inch. It's an inch. After the S comes what?
The R.
The R. Reason. Now, some people are struggling with the R and what it really means. What do we do with the R? What is the R's purpose? It's the reason that what?
Reason that element.
It's not why you, but it's why the author. You didn't use it. Tim Edwards, Justice Towns, Idle Osman, you didn't use it. Okay? The author used it. So, what you're going to write is what's in the black. You already have the red part. That was the statement. Here's the black part. The reason he uses emotional appeal is because he wants to make a connection to his party and make them feel his sense of pride in being an American. You'll notice that when I wrote this, I clearly state why the author wants to use emotional appeal. Why use emotional and not logical? Why use an emotional appeal and not a rhetorical question or an allusion? We know that authors do things purposefully. We know that they do them with intent. So we need to explain that. And this is your opportunity to show that you understand what the element does. It's your opportunity to say that you understand that pathos emotionally connects the audience, that a rhetorical question encourages the audience to continue or to begin thinking about a subject, that an allusion brings up a subject that's more important or different and adds credibility. This is your opportunity to show off your knowledge. So we got the S, we got the R. What comes next?
E.
Which E is this? Example. Your example comes first. Can we just put quotation marks, some words, and quotation marks?
No.
What do we need, Sarah?
You need to put in the passage. Or,
Close.
No.
Close.
For example, in the passage. Sorry.
Yes. For example, or the author states, or it can be seen. There's a word we use for that. It begins with a T. We talked about it on Tuesday. That word first is an example of it too. Transition. Okay, even though we're still talking about pathos, you need to transition to that next step, and you're transitioning into the example. So what's in the black is what you're writing this time. You already have what's red. So I wrote here, for example, when he states, common ground at the schoolyard where teachers cannot get adequate pay and students cannot get a scholarship and can't make a loan. Now, what I've been thrilled about is I'm not seeing nearly as many errors in the example part. For a long time, I was seeing people misidentify things. Like they'd say they saw a metaphor, and then they would give me a sentence that was clearly not a metaphor. I'm not seeing that very often anymore. So what that tells me is you guys are getting much better at identifying, and that's good. So next comes our best friend in the whole widest world, the second E. Explanation. It'll still be up there. Here's my thing about the second E. A lot of you are very good at saying what the quote is doing or showing. You're nailing that. But you don't talk about how, in this case, it's persuasive. Everybody in this room has been guilty of it at some point. So, don't moan, don't groan, but this is what the second E looks like.
Oh, shit.
Oh, see, there's the moaning and groaning. A little bit of cussing over there from Haley's side of the court. Now, I'm going to give you a chance to write this down, okay? It looks like a lot, but when you really break it down, that's 2 sentences.
Yeah, too long, run-on sentence.
Oh, there's not a run-on in there. It is grammatically perfect. Why? Because I wrote it.
I thought my sister said second E is supposed to be short.
Your sister was wrong.
Well, she got
but
you
that's
as
the
the class teacher last year.
She clearly didn't understand what I was saying then. Now, that being said, Justice says, yes, they're 2 giant sentences, and yes, I clearly put a little bit more information in here than would be absolutely necessary. But we're not in the business of doing what is absolutely necessary. We are in the business of making ourselves look really smart. We're in the business of making ourselves sound good. So I want you to notice a couple things. The first sentence, this quote illustrates Mr. Jackson's emotional appeal by making his audience feeling sympathetic for teachers and students, but all people as well. If you stopped there, have you answered the question? No, you have not talked about persuasion in any way, shape, or form. That's common second E mistake number 1. Not even talking about persuasion. The second common second E mistake is what we're going to call circular logic. Circles begin and end at the same place, right? If you're trying to convince me of something, you don't want to convince me by doing this, by making circles. Because if you make circles, you don't get anywhere. You start where you end, where you start where you end. That's not persuading, that's just restating yourself. You want to move in a line. Circles go on for infinity. We don't want infinity, you don't have time for infinity. You have time for a line. I'm going to ask all of you guys to pause where you're writing. Go ahead and pause. We'll come back. Take a look at the most common, or the second most common, second E mistake. A lot of people write this first part, what the quote shows, and you're good there. But then they'll say something like this. The quote is persuasive because it forces the reader to feel something. It doesn't tell me how. It's circular logic. Here's how this paragraph would have gone. The author uses pathos because he wants the reader to feel a sympathetic response. The reason he uses that is because he wants his audience to hear and feel it. Here's an example. And then in your explanation, you just say again, it's persuasive because they make me feel something. Have you gone anywhere? No. And so many people do this. Look at the difference between this and that. This one here doesn't just tell me that it's persuasive, but it does what? It's not, no, we're past example. Doesn't tell me that it is, it tells me what? Why and how. Why and how. Don't tell me that it's persuasive. Tell me why. Tell me how. Remember, your graders, people who will read these at the end of the day, pretend they're stupid. They don't know anything. You need to explain everything to them. Everything. So go ahead and finish writing this, and we'll go from there.
Oh, you should be a boss.
A boss?
Somebody at the door.
Not 220. Bye. Bye. Tim, why should I be a boss?
Oh, bro, you just sound smart.
Thanks.
You sound smart. How you are?
She had that.
Justice, do you really want to get in a battle of words with an English teacher?
No.
Didn't think so.
Well, Ishmael got on that, so.
Okay. I don't think Ishmael wants to get in a battle of words with an English teacher anyway. Yeah? You do?
No.
Unless it's a rap battle, in which case you're going to kick my butt. Okay. What you have in front of you guys, or you will shortly as soon as you finish writing, this is a 4. What would come after this? Another body. You do it all again. Now, here's the thing, guys. Last period, I had a bunch of people saying to me, it's too much, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Here's how I know it's possible. Last year, we had our students writing 3 body paragraphs. Okay? And I had, out of my classes alone, about 20, 23 or so students who were proficient distinguished on the end of course exam. And they were doing stuff like this. So I know it's possible. I know it is possible. Is it going to take some work? Is it going to take some practice? Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay? But this is where we're going. And this is my expectation. And if you do something like this, you will get a 3 or 4. I guarantee it. Do me a favor, raise your hand if your understanding of the expectation of the second E is a little bit stronger now. You understand a little bit more what's needed. Okay, keep your hands up. Raise your hand if you find that you are kind of where you were, like this did not help you in any way.
No,
Raise your hand if you're justice and you're awesome at everything you do. Okay.
I understand everything. I just be forgetting sometimes to write the second.
And forgetting's okay, and forgetting happens. But that's why we need to be practicing at this level. Tim.
You don't ever go blank before you take a test?
Do I what?
Like go blank. Like you forget everything. Like right
Oh, blank. I thought you said, do you ever blink before a test? I was like, I'm sure I do. I blink a lot. Yes, I do go blank. It has happened. Okay. Here's the deal, guys. I want to talk for about 2 seconds about your test tomorrow. And then I need you guys to kind of just help me straighten up. So let's talk about tomorrow. I'm going to cut you. Hold on, don't back. I'll give you time. Give you time. Tomorrow's test will have 10 multiple choice, 1 constructed response. You are only going to have 2 reading passages. 1 for the multiple choice and 1 for the constructed response. Understand this. I've been giving you 3 in the last couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
I'm knocking it down to 2 with the expectation that the extra time you have spent not reading is going to the second E. Okay? Secondly, about the test. Up until this point, if you were to be looking at your chart, the only dots that you could be getting were for the constructed response. Everything was building the constructed response. Now we have a new category. It's organizational patterns. So if you meet all standards tomorrow, you can get 2 dots. Okay? The last thing I want to tell you about the dots, if you were to look, say, here, this person here, notice they have 3 dots, pink, yellow, green. That means they've hit the standard 3 times. That means they don't have to do the constructed response again until proficiency test. So there's incentive. The more you hit it, the higher your grade, and you may get an easy week.
And so he don't have to, well, whoever it is, they don't have to do the test tomorrow? Well,
They just have to do the multiple choice. That's it.
Until when?
Until the proficiency test.
Yeah.
3 weeks from now.
So they don't have to do 0.
Yep.
3 weeks. That's
So what do I need to do?
Now, listen up, guys. Last thing I want to mention to you. We wrote this body paragraph together. I'm going to offer this to you. If you go home tonight and you finish another body paragraph, not saying you have to, not saying it's homework, but if you finish it, I will sit my butt down in the cafeteria tomorrow morning from like 6:50 to 7:25. You're welcome to come talk to me and get a little bit of help on it. If you write it tonight and send it to me on Edmodo, which I know, BB, you might do just because you're pretty proficient with it, I'm happy to look at it that way as well. Okay, if you want to send it to me on email, something like that, that's fine as well. That way you get a little bit of practice in before tomorrow. Any questions?
No.
Okay, here's what I need from you if you're willing to help. Any papers that aren't yours, go ahead and recycle them. Just anything you see, kind of straighten up. Oh, and I need your homework in the bin, please. A lot of you finished it. A lot of you finished it. It was the spam and the intro and the body and the pre-write.
Well, nobody has one.
It's on my desk. Just leave it.